Thank you very much, everyone, can you hear me well like this?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, cool. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming, first of all, and for, all the organizers to have us. We are very excited to present this project to you. So we call the presentation How We Scale Our Threat Modeling Program in the AI Era. So this is a project that started in October 2024 at Twilio, and basically transformed how we build threat models in our company. We wanted to present the journey that we did, what is the automation that we call TMA, or Threat Model Assistant, and what is how we did it, and how can you do it in your own companies. So I have here with me Juan Lopez. He's the Threat Modeling Program Manager, and I'm Javier Ortega. I'm the Offensive Security Program Manager at Twilio. First, I wanted to set the base with the critical role of threat modeling. So why threat modeling is important and why we do it in our companies. What is the problems of traditional threat modeling, and why it doesn't scale at today's AI pace. And the solution that we built, the AI TMA, or Threat Model Assistant, that we were commenting before. Last thing, I will leave some time for questions as well, if you have, of the presentation, of the technology itself. And call to action, we want you to build your own TMAs, so we will give you a bit of examples and things that you can do to build your own AI assistants. So, first of all, what is threat modeling, right? So, threat modeling is a security process. That's the first thing. That is identifying threats, enumerate and assess them, and create countermeasures for them, right? So, you have a threat, for example, SQL injection, right? That's the threat in a web application. The enumeration is that this is an important threat that you want to prioritize, and the countermeasure is to create parameterized queries, right? That's something that everyone would agree with me. And there are three main frameworks. How many of you have used or heard of Strike, for example? I see a lot of hands raised, so you are in the right presentation. Mitre Attack, Pasta, and other frameworks are widely used. At Twilio, for example, we use Strike, but you can use a different one at your own companies. Why we do threat modeling, right? We say this is very important. Yes, Javi, very, very good. But why we are doing this? As a overall, I would say, security, we are trying to do shiftless security, or secure by default, to embed security in part of our software development lifecycle. Yes, and we have heard this a lot of times. Put the security in the requirement phase. Put the security in the minds of developers. Put this in the design phase. Why we are doing this? Not only for security purposes, that we have a more robust system, but as well because it's cheaper. It's way cheaper to fix things or security vulnerabilities when they are in the left-hand side, in the requirements of design phase, than when they are already in production and this creates an incident for you. Now, what's the problem with, we have Cursor, we have Codex, we have Gemini, we have all of these great tools that they generate a lot of code, but what is the problem with threat modeling? You can see in this graph, and this comes from GitHub, so this is public GitHub repositories. We have from 2022, I don't know if you can see it well, but from 2022 to now, basically we have doubled the amount of code that we push per month, okay? From developers' perspective as well, we have doubled the amount of developers, or people that are signed up to create OSS, or like open source software in GitHub. So we have a ton of code, right? Now the question is, your threat modeling program, has it increased or has it doubled as well in, do you double the amount of threat models? That's the question. I will give you the answer. Now, before the AI boom, so let's say 2022, before we had all of these tools, there was a scaling bottleneck. So there was 200 developers per one application security professional, and this was already a problem back in 2022, right? Now, imagine all of those 200 dots that you see there that are software developers. Imagine that they generate double the code. Now, we have the same application security professional, and they haven't done anything new to scale your threat modeling program. They can generate the same amount of threat models. So before we used to have a problem, now we have a big problem. Okay? This is from 2023 from a company called Security Compass, that they did a survey of different, companies, different sizes, etc. And they said that 1/3 of the companies in 2023 thought that scalability was a problem. So I'm sure that number, I'm not sure what's going to be in 2026, but I can tell you it's going to be more, probably. Threat modeling in general, the sessions take days, right? That you have to check the designs, check with the developers, do calls. So it takes days or even weeks to schedule and complete a whole threat model. The documentation as well becomes outdated instantly. So they develop a new feature, they need to wait again, they are blocked, they don't like the process, they are like, these guys at security, they are really bad, they take days to fix this, or they take days to tell us these things. So the documentation as well, it's not scalable, right? This process. The commercial tool, there are commercial tools to automate this, but there is no one commercial tool that fits all. So there is going to be a way to, put it into your own development process or into your own companies. And as well, they have a difficulty of integration, and they have a cost associated, which as well is not great. So AI brings us all of these new challenges that we were commenting, the amount of code and the scalability problems, but it gives us well a really good opportunity to fix all of these issues.
Thank you, Javier. Well, at Twilio, we faced all those issues. We had a huge scalability problem. Engineering teams came to us asking for security review, asking for security help, and we needed, you can see, maybe weeks to get a result and to give them feedback. So we started thinking in a solution. With the boom of LLM applications, we started thinking in an automation to automatically create threat models for our engineering teams, and this is how we started thinking in the threat model assistant in TMA. So at the end of 2024, we started working on the project, trying to think how to perform this and implement this automation. And after a few months in 2025, we started the test. And we started getting the first results of TMA. And we could see that instead of needing weeks to get a result for our engineering teams, they could get a threat model in just a few minutes. Well, this is how TMA works nowadays. So initially, the idea was to create an automation to automatically create threat models, but at the end, after months of implementations, we created an orchestrator. So at Twilio, we have a process for security reviews. So engineering teams need to create a request for us. We create a ticket. We create the threat model, etc. So at the end, TMA does everything for us. It's an automation to completely automate the security review process. The idea is to allow to create requests using the tools that engineering teams already use, the tools that they know. So if an engineering team needs to create a security review for their new service, they just need to create a request. They just need to send us a technical document with all the specifications of the new service. We also ask some security questions. For example, if the service is processing PII, if the service is public-facing, etc. We get all that information. We send that information to the LLM provider, and this is where the magic happens. So the LLM provider, in our case, we are using OpenAI, put all that information together, and using the context of the company, in our case, the information and the context of Twilio, security policies, security standards, security controls, how to implement those security controls. We ask the model to create a result, in this case a threat model. So we get that threat model and we put all that information in a tracking platform. In our case, we are using Jira. So at the end of the process, in just a few minutes, the engineering team has a new Jira ticket with the threat model and the necessary task to continue the process. So at the end, instead of needing maybe 2 weeks to get all that information, engineering teams can have everything in just a few minutes. One of the main components of TMA is the model, the LLM provider. At the end, the LLM provider is the one that is going to create the result, the threat model for us. So it is important to select a model that works for us. So this model needs to have 3 main requirements. Vision capabilities, because we ask teams to send us the information in a Google Doc with all the information, all the technical requirements of the service and the review. And usually these documents have images, data flow diagrams, sequence diagrams, architecture diagrams. So we need a model with vision capabilities to understand those images. Okay. Also, of course, we need a model with reason capabilities. Nowadays, there are different models with different capabilities. There are models for reasoning tasks. So we need to select one model that has these reason capabilities, because we are going to ask the model to analyze all the information of the service under review and identify the threats and the security controls to mitigate or eliminate those threats. And third, and this part is very important, we need to give the LLM provider, the model, the context of the company. Because if our company works, for example, with AWS, we need solutions and security controls related to that context, in this case for AWS. So we need to add the model, the security standards, again, the policies of the company, all the context to create good results that apply for the engineering teams of the company, in our case, for Twilio. Once we know the model, we need to instruct the model how to act, okay? So we need to create a system prompt, and we are going to extract the model to act as a security engineer with many years of experience. We can set the purpose of the task that is going to perform, the context, etc. One important part of this configuration is to tell the model how to send us back the result. In our case, we are using JSON objects, because this way we can get all the information of the result in a way that we can format to then create the result for engineering teams. In our case, we get the information from the JSON file to create a Google Doc with different sections. So once we have that information, we replace the information in the Google Doc. So this is a document that engineering teams can understand. Okay? And once we have the model, once we have the instructions for the model, how we are going to ask the model to get the threats and security controls of the system? Well, we have we used a technique that we named divide and conquer. So instead of directly asking the model to identify the threats, we want the model to analyze the service. So it is very important and necessary that the model understand all the elements of the service under review. So we first ask to identify the threats, the services that needs to be implemented, the existing services of the company that are part of the service under review, third-party services, users and roles, of course the functionalities, the data flows, and the sensitive information. So we ask the model to understand everything and put all that information together. Once the model knows all that information, we can ask the model to identify the threats. Also, we use a technique to enforce the result. So once we have a first result, we ask again the model to take a look at that result, to review that result, and to improve it. And well, TMA was created to fix the scalability problem. So how we are fixing that issue? It's prioritization. So we have created a system to identify services, the services that are under review, that are critical or not critical. So we ask the engineering team some security questions. For example, if the service processes PII, or if it's publicly exposed, or is a control plane service that is very important for other services of the company, we mark that service as critical. So engineering teams create the request, the service is marked as critical or not, and if the service is critical, only in those cases the security teams are involved in the review. Okay? So this way, security teams focus and work only on the most important services of the company. It is true that we encourage engineering teams to review the services that are not critical, because this way they can be aware of the security of the services that they implement. But we are fixing the scalability issue because security teams are only involved in just the most critical services. Here we have some numbers, but as you can see, now almost all the reviews are created by TMA, and security teams are only involved in the most important ones.
We wanted to show you an example, right? We cannot put like an internal service of Twilio. So we took the library app from OWASP, that is a college library system architecture. So you can see in the middle there is a web server, that there is as well a database on the right-hand side, that is MySQL. The web server is an Apache web server. And there are 3 types of users. So there's students that can request books, they can look up books, and they have like profiles, and they can as well log in, right? Those are the functionalities. The staff can, for example, modify those reservations. They can as well see the profiles of the students, etc. And the librarians are the administrators of the website. So we gave this architecture diagram directly to the AI, and we gave as well this explanation that I just gave you, right? So the type of technology used, that the students can do this, the staff can do that, and we just let it run, and we just took those results and put them in the presentation. So there is no modification here. So we just took 3 of them. There were more security controls and more threats identified, but these are the ones that were more interesting for us. So the first one is related to information disclosure. It says unauthorized reservation data exposure via IDOR. The reservation endpoint accepts numeric reservation IDs, so changing the value returns all the users' reservations, right? So this can be a threat that is actually broken access control. It's very important and needs to be fixed. What is the recommendation that the AI gave? Per object ownership check. So verify that the user ID that did the reservation is actually the logged in user, right? It's a simple check that maybe a developer forgets. It even gave an example of implementation of how you can do this, and it gave references as well to where does this attack come from, right? Like, for example, in this case, from OWASP. Next security controls related to the denial of service. And it says transaction flooding denial of service. So an attacker may flood the transaction management system by sending a lot of reservations at the same time, right? The recommended fix is to limit the number of transaction requests per user or per IP, to prevent the abuse, and to enforce a strict limit. In this case, for example, it says 100 per minute per IP. Maybe it should be less, to be honest, but monitor for traffic patterns and usage to adjust this threshold. So this is another of the examples that you could think like, oh, do I need to implement rate limiting, or how do I need to do it? So do it, for example, per user or per IP instead of, just in a different way. The last one I wanted to mention is related to elevation of privilege. And this session fixation enables privilege escalation. So if we don't renew the session IDs when you authenticate, if one of them get leaked and you reuse them all the time for the same user, you will be able to authenticate as that user. That's the threat that it identified, and this is the explanation that it gave. And the AI suggested fix is to regenerate the session IDs post-login. So always issue new cookies on successful authentication. It gave as well an example of how to implement this in the code. So on /login success, call res.generate, send the set cookie with a new SID and invalidate the old. That's the most important thing to do. So we just wanted to give you an example of how this looks and how powerful this is, and that this is real, this is available and is possible to do, and to encourage you to scale as well your threat model program.
Thank you. Well, now we want to show you some metrics. So nowadays we can say that the project is going very well. So it's being used by all the engineering teams at Twilio, and we have, I would say, fixed the scalability issue. And we have some numbers for you. So, well, the first benefit of using TMA for sure is the reduction in time. So before having TMA, we needed weeks to create a result for engineering teams. But now, using TMA, they can get the first result, the initial result, in just a few minutes. We say here 15 minutes, but it's even less. And, that benefit in that reduction of time means more efficiency. So it's more efficiency for both engineering teams and security teams. Security teams can focus on the most important parts of the company. So they are more focused. And also, of course, the engineering teams are not blocked. So they don't need to wait for weeks for a result from the security team, and they can just focus on what they do best, that is do the implementations of the services for the company. And based on that, if we are saving time, what we are saving for the company is money. So we did some numbers, and the second half of 2025, we have calculated that we have saved 400K for the company, which is a lot, and the automation still is going on and getting better and being used every time for more teams. Also, we created a survey for the engineering teams, asking them how satisfied are they with the automation. And well, so far they are very satisfied, because before having TMA, they needed to create a Jira ticket. That ticket needed to be assigned to a security team. The security team needed to work on the review. And now they just need to execute a command, start the process, and they have a result in just a few minutes. They will have the threat model and also the Jira ticket assigned to the right team. Can be the engineering team in the case of non-critical services, or to the security team in the case of critical services. Also, more benefits of using TMA. Right now, we are working with more teams in the implementation and improvements of TMA. We are working with the security compliance team at Twilio, and now we have added the information of the compliance standards that we use at Twilio. And if a team that needs a service that needs to be HIPAA compliance, for example, we can add that information to the request, and all the security controls needed for that service to be HIPAA compliance will be added to the threat model. What does it mean? It means more clients, an easy way to verify if a service is compliant with a standard or not, and more business opportunities. Well, we continue working on TMA. Right now is one of the most important projects of the company for security. We want to continue improving all the capabilities and functionalities. We want to allow to use other LLM providers instead of only using OpenAI. We want to create more integrations. So one of the ideas is to integrate the main tools and platforms of the company with TMA. So we continue adding even more. Also, we are working with other security teams, because right now we are orchestrating the standard security review. That is the security review to create a threat model. But there are other types of security reviews in our company. For example, for the third-party security team, for the privacy team. So they are working with us to integrate all those processes into TMA too, so they can automate their own security reviews. And also this year, we are working on the project to make TMA open source, because we want to share this project with the community, with other companies, and see how we can continue with all these new things using AI and LLM, and with more people working on the project, we are sure that we will improve it a lot more. And thank you everyone, thank you the sponsors, thank you the organizers, and we have some time for some questions. Yes.
Skills of the people who would be looking at the threats over reliance on the AI models eventually might not get them to focus on newer or more long term. Is that a conversation internally?
So the question is if the person that is going to review, if we have done a survey as well of the type of person that is going to review, and
so looking at the dynamism from a threat detection perspective, you're looking at a lot of intuition and a lot of over the years knowledge gained. But if you're relying, on models continuously, do you imagine them being I don't want to go against the model's recommendation or something like that? Do you think that coming in?
Yeah. So that's a good question, and we always let as well the engineering teams check what they have in their backlog and what they have already implemented in their services. So when they receive the first threat model, they can say hey, I have implemented this, I have not implemented this, I didn't even think of this. Sometimes as well, there are not that many hallucinations. We have seen that the reinforcement is quite good. It's a good technique to avoid the hallucinations, but it can happen. There are some times that it happens, and if it says something that is complete BS, we tell like, just feel free to remove security controls, or let us know if we can remove a security control, right? That's the most important thing. We want to encourage the teams to understand security and to do security by themselves, and this is a very good tool for them to start doing this.
And from a future-proofing perspective, you would expect like future resources to have that like reliance on AI built in, right? Like,
Yeah. As the model improves, and as well before we didn't have that many reasoning models, that they were not as accurate. As the model improves, the threat model improves in general. So that's one thing that we have seen as well, like improving from when we started in 2024 in October, there were more errors. Right now it's very accurate, I would say. So it has improved a lot, and it's just getting better, to be honest. Yeah.
So was the hallucinations reduced by the model just improving, or by use? Like, is there precautions you're doing to keep hallucinations down, or is the model just really getting as good?
Well, I will say that, it depends on the model and also on the context that we add to the model. So as Javier said before, so in the first versions of TMA, we saw more hallucinations, but it is true that right now we are not seeing any of them. Maybe just some confusion with platforms and things like that, but using the technique of reinforcement and always trying to add more context to the model, we are getting every time better results related to that.
So the more context helps?
Absolutely. So I would say the most important thing is the context, because if not, the model can recommend things related to platforms that you don't use in your company. So the more context, the better results, for sure.
Because I found like people give less context thinking it's better. But,
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.